Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming. It's the start of a new year and that means it's time to start a new series. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Last Federation. Now, as a matter of full disclosure, I'll just open this by saying that this copy of the game and its expansions were provided to me for free by the developer. So a big thank you to Arkan Games for that. Now, what is The Last Federation, you might ask? Kinda hard to say, honestly. It takes a few aspects from a 4X strategy game, mixes them with a sort of diplomatic simulator, and then throws in turn-based combat of all things. On their own, each of those would not be an unusual premise for a game, but it's the combination that makes The Last Federation kind of an oddball in this genre. Although personally, I would argue that that is kind of a refreshing take on what otherwise could be a pretty standard strategy game, so I think you'll see what I'm talking about as we play. Now, I was thinking about how I would do this video and how I can try to explain every single facet of the game, but really there's just a lot of information to try and cover, so I'm going to just jump straight into a game, and I'll try to explain things as we go, and I'm hoping that it will all make sense. So let's start a advanced game. Now, we're going to be doing a strategic and combat difficulty of normal, because it does break those two up. We have to decide which planet we want to crash land on, which will determine which starting ship we'll be using, based on which race is going to, capture us, and then we're going to steal their flagship. Although that all comes down to the story, you'll find out more about that later. It's important for two reasons. One, you have to decide what kind of weapons and kind of ship configuration you want to use throughout the game, but also, whichever race you pick is pretty much going to be your rival throughout the game. They're just going to hate you, so you have to decide which one you're okay with upsetting. Personally, I kind of like the Accusation ship. I do like miniguns and energy blasters quite a bit. The only other one that has an energy blaster would be, well, I guess the Skylaxian technically has the same weapons configuration, but it has less special abilities. You can see it has 1x weapon, 4x operations, 1x special ability. You'll find out more about that later. The Accusation is a very balanced ship, and I'm okay with upsetting the Accusatians because they're a bunch of amoral, super greedy capitalist CEO robot people. So they're pretty much the bad guys in a lot of ways, and I don't mind upsetting them. That's okay with me. Now, as far as what game mode we're going to be using, we'll do a standard game. The expansions did add some different game modes, which does add to the replayability of this game quite a bit, but I just want to show off a standard game, so we'll pick that. And as far as our solar map background, again, a couple of options were added by the expansion, so why not? Let's do Green Burst. I'm alright with that. We'll do a starting year of 0. And we are going to skip the tutorials, although I will say I actually like the tutorial for this game quite a bit. The Last Federation has a lot of information to throw at you, and if it's your first time playing, it probably will overwhelm you within the first 5 minutes. This game has a tendency to turn off a lot of those features at the beginning of a game and kind of gradually introduce you to new concepts as you play. So it interrupts your playstyle a lot, but it also helps prevent you from being overloaded. I just think the tutorial is really well put together. I like that a lot. But it does, like I said, interrupt your play a lot. So we're going to turn it off, and I'll just try to explain things myself. We are not going to skip the intro story, though. I'm not going to read it all out. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but I want you to be able to see it if you want. All right, that all seems pretty reasonable. Let's go ahead and start our game. I am the last of the murdered race of Hydrals. We took to the stars and shot down the manned launches of everyone else. You are a Hydra in space. Really, it's true. Have fun with that. We look pretty cool, though. I like the art of this guy. Basically, though, our species in our solar system was the first to achieve spacefaring technology, and we used that to keep all the other races down. We became the de facto dictators of the solar system. As you can imagine, nobody else really liked that. They conspired together to strap rockets to a moon and launch it at your planet and commit genocide against your entire race. Of course, how aliens were able to strap rockets to a moon if they didn't even have spacefaring technology, I have no idea, but that plot hole's not really explained, so there you go. Now, the only reason that you survived is because you were on a renegade mission to deliver spacefaring tech to all the other lower races. Why would you do that? Because you had a dream. You had a dream of a peaceful alliance, a federation, perhaps, of all the alien races, where everyone could be free of the atrocities committed by your race and against your race. That's the concept. Of course, everyone else kind of hated you. Your species got completely obliterated, and you crash-landed on a ship, and they quote-unquote captured you, but of course you're much stronger than they thought, so you just sat there waiting for them to develop spacefaring technology on their own over the course of several years, and then you hijack their ship. You took their flagship. It's like, so long, suckers, I'm gonna be a mercenary now, and I'm gonna do my own thing, or whatever. Of course, they're not gonna like that at all. You stole their first ever flagship, so they hate you. The Acutians, in this case, are the race that I stole from, and they are going to hate me probably for the rest of the game. You could technically fix that, but it's hard, and I'm probably not gonna bother. I'm just gonna kill them all. So yeah, they're after me. These are the Acutians. They're a bunch of amoral robot CEOs. They only care about the bottom line and profit. They don't care about ethics at all. They'll do any unspeakable horror. It doesn't matter to them at all, as long as they get paid for it. And now they are coming after us. So the game starts you off in your first turn-based combat scenario. It's pretty darn easy, almost impossible to fail. It's just an opportunity to get your feet wet, and I will show that to you now. So this is my ship. This is an Acutian flagship. If we had started with a different race, we would look different, and we would have some different abilities and weapon types available to us. So like I said, this is turn-based combat. So what's going to happen is the first phase of every turn, we are going to determine our movement. So you can see with this arrow here, I can decide I want to go to any of these places in my reach, kind of maneuver around this way, for example. I could go out straight and then hold down shifts and click and then move it out like this. You know, there's a lot of things that I could do, and the more engine power I have, the further I can go. But we're just going to choose a pretty basic direction. I want to head toward these little purple symbols. I guess they're kind of X's or dots on my minimap. So there's our first target. Let's head down this direction, for example, try to avoid a lot of the asteroids. And now we have to decide what we want to fire with. So we are currently set to auto-fire, and we have 3 different weapon types. We have a minigun, which is just rapid-fire bullets. We have an energy blaster, which is energy pulses that are very good at taking down shields, but that's about it. And the gravity lance, which is a short-range beam weapon, I should say, that is really good at tearing apart hull. Now, if you hover over an enemy ship, it actually will tell you up front which weapon will be the most effective. So you can see down in the bottom left over here that this is a AOC blockade type Velociter type A. It's an Acutian ship with a hull of 50,000 and so on. It even tells us the DPS will be best if we use the minigun, 71,664. Other than that, they recommend the Gravity Lance, and lastly, the Energy Blaster, because this doesn't have any shields. Now, we're going to go with the minigun because I think it's pretty useful, and we'll stick to auto-fire just so you can see how this is going to work, but anyone that is in this radius is going to be targeted. So let's click and execute our move. There we go. Now we're shooting through a lot of asteroids. We're also shooting kind of randomly at some of these interceptors that were launched. So, you know, auto-fire may not necessarily be the smartest strategy, at least in my opinion. We're going to try to maneuver down this way to try and stay pretty close to this ship. And I'm going to click on Fire at Selected Ship, or hotkey G, to suggest I want to only shoot at this ship. So if we click now, it'll execute our move, and it's specifically shooting at that ship. In fact, it destroyed it. And oh, look at this! Some escape pods carrying Acutian pilots. We'll fly over here, we'll capture them. We could enslave them if we want, or we could just, you know, trade the prisoners of war and possibly get some goodwill with the Acutians. Not that that's going to help us much, but we could. So that's going to be our move. And now as far as who we want to target, well, this guy has a shield. So I'm going to switch to my Energy Blaster, which has the same firing radius, and click on this ship, and move on like so. Now, of course, we have a lot of stuff in our way. Some space debris and other things like that. Let's go this direction instead. Click again. Continue to shoot down your shield. It's got about 200,000 shield power left, so that's unfortunate for me. It's going to take a little while to work our way through it. Now, this is, in a lot of ways, because it's turn-based, kind of a bullet hell game. Once you have a lot of enemy ships, you're going to see laser blasts just flying all over the freaking place, and your maneuvering turn is your opportunity to try and avoid as much damage as possible while still staying within a strategic range to shoot your opponent. So it gets a little bit complex. This is really easy right now, but it's interesting. It's really interesting, in fact. Now, this ship, you can see here, it says that our best DPS would be the Gravity Lance, if we can get in range. So I'll say my movement's like this, for example, but you can see my Gravity Lance won't actually hit. So I'm going to switch to the minigun instead until I can get closer, but we're going to maneuver deliberately to try to get this way. Now, one thing I want to point out, you'll notice in the top left here, we have our hull, we have our shields, but we also have 3 different power bars. Just like a lot of sci-fi space simulators, you can manipulate which subsystem is going to have the most power. So right now, because this is a really easy fight, I don't see a lot of reason to have a ton of shields because I don't think I'm going to take a lot of damage. So instead, I'm going to take a couple power bars off of shields and add them to weapons to make them more effective. I could add them to engines instead, which would make me a little bit more maneuverable, and I would be able to travel further per turn. But this should be sufficient. We're going to select this ship as the one we want to target so its shields don't regenerate, and here we go. Pew, 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 pew. Now we're getting kind of close to it, so we can probably switch to our gravity lance and do a lot of damage. We'll stick as close to it as we can so we're within range. There we go, we destroyed the ship. And we just also rescued some Acution pilots. How lovely. I'm going to switch to the energy blaster and select this ironclad and see if we can take down its shields, but right now we're a little too far away to really do much damage at all. So we're going to navigate around the space debris, try to avoid any shots, and get closer into range. Of course, the space debris is making that a little difficult. Now, you don't have to move your entire distance every turn. You could say I want to go kind of slowly like this, for example. I'm going to click here, and we're going to move a lot slower this turn. We're just going to stop here for the rest of the turn. No problem. Now we probably want to avoid a lot of the bullet hell that's heading toward us, so let's speed up again and just get out of the way. Could avoid a lot of that damage. Your shields are down, so the gravity lance actually would be our best bet. In fact, I'm going to reposition my maneuver so we can stay close behind it and switch to the gravity lance. Oh, we're too far away. And of course, if you are too far away from your target, it'll just kind of auto-fire at anything else that happens to be in range. Although sometimes the power system is actually kind of intelligent. So suppose you said you want to hold your fire, but you still have all your power set to your weapons. The game is smart enough to say, well, I'm not shooting my weapons. You probably don't want to have all your power being directed to your weapons. We probably should just redivert everything to shields while we wait. And it'll do that automatically, which is actually kind of nice. I like that feature. But anyway, let's just tear this ship apart, and that's it. We win our first combat. Cool. The alternative, of course, would have been to dock with the survey platform and just try to end things peacefully with the Acutions, but it's hard to say whether or not that's good. In fact, you can hold your mouse over here and it would tell you what would have happened. If we had docked with the enemy platform instead, we would give them 8 technologies and we would gain 60 influence. They would like us, they wouldn't be our rivals anymore, but they would be a lot stronger, which could be a bad thing. Kind of depends. Alright, let's end this combat. And of course, after every combat, you're going to get a mission summary. The Acutions lost some power and an armada. We destroyed a few ships, we took a little bit of damage, no problem. And we gained credit, which is the currency of this game. This is how you're going to enact a lot of your influence over the other races. And the Acutions really don't like us, currently. It's too bad. Only took half a solar month, no problem, and we rescued 18 pilots. Cool. So, this is the Galactic Map. So we have currently got 8 planets we can look at. So right now we are here on Tapio, the Acution homeworld. There's also the Evuk homeworld. There's the Burlusts, I should say, the Borines, the Skylaxians, the Pelsians, the Andors, and of course the Thoraxians. A lot of different planets. These all represent different races in the game. Now, as I said, the goal of this game is to create the Federation. How you do that, though, is really up to you, and that's where this game gets kind of interesting. There are many ways to skin a cat, as they say, and just so, there are many ways to form a federation. You could say, hey, I want to make sure that every race survives and everybody likes each other and all 8 races help me form the Federation. I want everybody to be involved. I don't want to commit any genocide. I don't want any war. I want everyone involved. You could do that. That's really freaking hard, though. You could instead say, you know what, I'm okay with just having like 3 or 4 races join the Federation, and then we'll just go wipe out everyone else, commit genocide against their entire race, and then the only survivors will be the Federation. Congratulations, I win. That's another way you could do it. So, some are easier than others. My opinion of the game is that it's honestly kinda easy once you understand the mechanics, but you can self-impose a lot of rules in this game to make it more difficult if you desire. And there's achievements in Steam and stuff like that to try and give you an incentive to do that. We're probably going to go for a pretty standard game, so I'll try to get like 4 or 5 races to join the Federation, and then we'll just declare war and wipe everyone else out, and I'll show you just why this game is pretty darn easy under the right circumstances. Alright, so we still got a few minutes left in this video, so I'll go ahead and explain some more things. So one thing you want to know is that every race is functionally distinct from the other. The Skylaxians, for example, are a fairly democratic and diplomatic race. Mostly peace-loving, but they have an uncanny ability to exact influence over other races and convince them to join the Federation. So making the Skylaxians join you up front is usually a pretty good choice. In contrast, though, you have a race like the Burlusts, for example, which is a race of warriors, and they love fighting, like that's their thing. In fact, if you want to gain a lot of respect and influence with the race, what you do is go over there and challenge their warlord to a duel, kill him, and a new warlord will take power, but in the meantime, everyone respects your strength and power, and they love you for it. You know, every race has a different government type, every race has different goals, different ways of being friendly with them. You know, every race is different. The Thoraxians, for example, are a hive mind. And depending on the mood of their hive queen will depend on how you want to interact with them. Whereas the Andors believe that they form a sort of utopian society. And they're pretty content just staying on their one world, but it does make them pretty vulnerable to a lot of other races, and so on. It's just an interesting game because of the distinction between every race. You have to take a different tactic each time, and other races are going to hate each other. So you have to kind of try to manipulate them into liking each other enough to be allies and join a federation. And this game really comes down to manipulation. That's the entire premise of the game. We cannot have a planet of our own. We do not have an army of our own. We are a single ship acting as a mercenary, kind of playing the space Illuminati, as Total Biscuit would put it, and manipulate all the other races into either liking each other or disliking each other enough to join alliances or declare war and wipe each other out. It's a weird puppet master kind of game, and it's very indirect, and I think that's what makes this particularly interesting. Alright, so to start off, we are on Tapio, here with the Acutians. Now you can see that we have a few different options when we are in the orbit of this planet. We can see a few things. For example, we know that the Acutians have 2 armadas right now, and this is kind of the overall combined power of their armadas is 56. They have 4.8 billion civilians, as opposed to a lot of other races which have significantly less, but we don't know that because we haven't met them yet. We can see some factors about their planet. Their economy is in kind of bad shape right now. Their medical is very mediocre. Their environment is particularly bad, which is unsurprising because, they're super amoral robotic CEOs that have no problem polluting their planets. And their public order is currently very bad. And we can also see we have no influence with them. In fact, they absolutely despise us right now. This is the compatible... Yeah, this is basically how compatible the inhabitants are on their current homeworld. Basically, they're not compatible at all, so Acutians are going to be very sick on this planet. They're going to need to change their environment a lot in order to make it more hospitable to their race. Pretty useful if you plan on wiping them out. And this... Oh, I'm sorry, this is not their total population of 4.8. This is their total population of 77 million. 4.8 billion is the effective soldier power that they have. Bit of a difference there. My mistake. We also have a few options here as far as looking at the exact planet details. Now, this menu is a little bit overwhelming. I'm honestly probably not going to use these menus to find out what kind of resources they have and how many, what kind of existing buildings they got, and so on. Like, this is too much information and really kind of unnecessary to win the game. But if it's the kind of thing you like to look at, it's there. We also have some friendly actions we can do with them because they have achieved spacefaring technology. So you can see that we could, for example, go on a joint mission with them if they liked us a bit more, but they don't, so they have no interest in helping us. We could go on a joint mission and destroy a pirate base. We would gain some credit, which is a good currency, and everybody likes it when you kill pirates. But because the Acutians hate us, they have no interest in doing a joint mission with me. We could also aid the local economy and make things better. We could encourage them to mine an uncolonized moon, or we could help them research some new technology, or we could study from them. We could do, for example, a free return of prisoners, and if we did this and we wanted to release all 18 prisoners, we would gain 3 approval with them. Not that there's much reason to do that, although I have no intention of selling them into slavery, so I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but there it is. You could do that. You could give them technology to make them like you. You could do a prisoner exchange. You could do a lot of different things. In the opposite side of things, though, instead of friendly actions, we could do hostile actions, and you can do this even with races that love you. You could attack their armadas on your own and destroy a bunch of stuff, and they're going to hate you even more, minus 72, but all their enemies will like you for it. You could, if there was an invading fleet, join the invading fleet to destroy some more Acutian ships. We could bomb the planet and kill a bunch of their civilians. Every day, we would kill 0.3 million Acutians. We could poison the populace, we could pollute the environment, and so on and so forth. We're actually going to use this rather extensively in the late game, but not at the beginning. And of course, every planet will have a unique last button here to see their particular government type, and this is the Acutian CEO. So it'll give you a little bit of an overview. The Acutians don't have politics so much as they do ascendant capitalists. Out of the 17 industries that the Acutians organize themselves into, they choose 3 that are the most powerful at the time and choose their top CEOs from those industries to represent their planet as the business elite. So we can see that here. That ZN38 is representing the scientific industry, the defense industry, and the communications industry are currently the most powerful. We could, of course, look at all the different industries that they have and try to do different deals with their members if they didn't hate us so much. But that's an example of what one kind of government type looks like. And again, the Acutians are functionally completely distinct from the other races. So, This whole time, I've been talking about how this game kind of works, and I've done one round of combat. Before I end it, let's try doing something else. So, if we want to make other races like us, what are some early game things that we could do? Well, we could pick a race and try to deliver spacefaring technology to them so that the Acutians are not the only one to have reached the stars. Now, I like the Skylaxians quite a bit. They are a good first race to go for, so I'm going to click on that. We're going to go to their homeworld of Linos, and we can't do any hostile actions against them yet because they don't have spacefaring technology. We can, however, take a friendly mission to deliver spacefaring tech. That will gain us 14,000 credit, which is pretty darn good, not gonna lie. We would gain 50 influence with the Skylaxians, so from neutral to liked, that's good. They'll become spacefaring, so they'll be a competing power against the Acutians. And the Acutians, if they find out that we're the ones who gave them spacefaring technology, will be very angry at us. And I mean very angry at us. But if they don't detect us, and you'll see how that works in just a minute, then as far as they're concerned, the Skylaxians developed it all on their own, and they'll be none the wiser, which would be good. So let's take this action and try to deliver spacefaring tech to the Skylaxians. All the races will probably develop it on their own eventually, but you can kind of control which ones get the early game advantage. It's all part about that manipulation. Now, these little X's here are probes, and they're going to send out little pulses trying to figure out where I am. We're going to try to avoid those. We're not going to shoot at anything, so I don't need any weapon power. I'm going to instead put all my power in engines and shields, so we can go as fast as possible. Now I'm going to make a beeline for the drop zone, so let's go this way. I'm going to say hold fire because I don't want to shoot at anybody, and let's execute our turn. Now you can see over here, they're sending out these little pulses, and each race will have a slightly different pattern. At some point, there will be so many different probes in orbit of the planets you're trying to deliver spacefaring technology to that it's really hard to avoid them. Every turn gets harder. But either way, let's execute our next turn. Okay, see these little pulses right here? Every time they catch us, we are going to lose influence with the Acutians. Not that we care that much, but that's what would happen. So let's go ahead and hit that drop zone. We'll end the mission just like so. Bam. Successfully jettisoned the technical documents, and now the Skylaxians will like us, and they've become spacefaring themselves, and we gained 14,000 credit. That is a lot. No problem. Now here's the problem. We can pick a lot of different races to deliver spacefaring technology to. For example, let's suppose we wanted to deliver spacefaring technology to the Peltians instead. These guys are kind of good. They're sort of weird little owl creatures. So let's suppose we want to do spacefaring technology with them. Same thing, you'll gain 14,000 credit. The problem is, neither the Acutians or the Skylaxians want the other races to become spacefaring. Right now they have the advantage, and they want to keep that. As a result, they have sent probes all over the darn place that are going to be trying to detect me, and every time you make another race spacefaring, they're going to send probes of their own. So every time you try to create another spacefaring race, it's going to get progressively more difficult. So right now, it looks like the Evox actually managed to become spacefaring on their own. That must have just happened. I'm not really sure. I didn't really notice. Yeah, okay, look how many more X's there are. There are going to be a lot more probes trying to detect us. It's going to be really hard to get around here. Particularly because the Evox apparently managed to deliver it on their own. I'm not really sure how that happened, but they did. So, we're going to try to get around this. Oop, look at those pulses. Going to be kind of hard to avoid these. These are Skylaxians who are detecting me right now. I do not want to upset the Skylaxians if I can avoid it. So we're going to look for an opportunity, which is going to get progressively harder because of the Acutians being where they are. So we'll just move this direction and kind of hold tight. Okay, I see an opening. So I'm going to go this direction. We're going to try to get around very carefully. We're going to move this way, hold down shift, and navigate like so in this turn. Can we do it? I think we can. Oh, we're going to get detected. I think. Maybe we did. End combat. Yep, the Acutians did detect us with one pulse. We lost 30 approval with them. Not that I really care, because I don't like the Acutians, and I'm probably going to kill them all. In the meantime, the Peltians are now spacefaring, and they like us, and we gained voting proxies with the Peltians. They don't respect credit at all, but they do respect voting proxies because that's their government type. So if we look at them, look at the cute little, like, barn owl pig round thingies. They're so cute. I want to plushie one of the Peltians. They're awesome. They're collective. They have voting proxies as far... They're kind of almost communistic in a way, I suppose you could say. But yeah, gaining voting proxies is the only way to do things with them. You could bribe them. That's no problem. A little corruption never hurts, it says. But we're probably not going to have to do that. Either way, we have some voting proxies now. We could try to encourage them to do different things. No need for now, because I think this is going to be a good place to wrap up this episode. But you kind of get an idea of how this works. How we're going to manipulate the other races into forming a federation later, that's going to be a little bit hard, but we'll see. So did they? Yes, the Evox did manage to research spacefaring technology without me. That was really fast. I'm shocked, honestly. And as a result, because they got spacefaring technology before I did, now it's harder to deliver spacefaring technology to the other races, and we don't get the influence with them because we did not deliver it ourselves. So that's unfortunate for us, but it is the way it is. Alright, well guys, that is the first video of The Last Federation. I hope you're interested in this game. If you are, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for my future content. My name has been Pravus, and I will see you guys next time.